this way for reading. The essential question this week is, what can happen when we work together? And over here it says, talk about it. How are these children working together? So Zoe, how are these children working together? Yeah, they're working together to build a tower. And this week we have been talking about how when we work together, we can get the job done faster. Maybe you don't have to do as much work if you have people that are helping you. I gave you the example that we had done yard work this weekend, and we were all out there working. You know, Brody was pushing the lawnmower, Darwin was weed eating and edging. I was picking up sticks, and I was hand pulling up the big weeds. And then Darwin and Brody even drove to Lowe's and got more mulch, and we all sat out there. And I took one flower bed and started ripping the mulch open and spreading it out. And Brody and Darwin took the bigger flower bed. The only person we didn't make help that time was Gage. But actually, sometimes we do make him help us pick up sticks and rocks and things like that. But this time he was just playing. But the three of us, my husband, myself, and Brody, my biggest boy, worked together to get the job quicker. And guess what? We weren't near as tired as we would have been if just one of us had to do all the work by ourselves. All right. So we talked about two vocabulary words, and I just want to review those words real quick. So we've already talked about the word decide. Now, to decide is to make a choice between two or more things. So can you say the word decide? Decide. All right. We also already talked about the word opinion. So an opinion is what a person thinks about something. Can you say the word opinion? Opinion. All right. Let's talk about three new words. Okay. So I have the word grateful. A person is grateful or thankful for something that was done or for something that made the person happy. Example, I am grateful to have kind friends. So can you tell about a time you were grateful to someone? Dresden, move your clip and sit at the door. Yes. Okay, so you were grateful with your mom because what? Because she did something for you? Okay, so maybe you're grateful when your mom gives you a present or buys you something. Can you think of something different, Zoe? A time when you were grateful to someone? Very good. So you're grateful that your dad cooks you dinner. Maybe you're grateful that he cooks the type of food that you like. Very good. Elijah? Very good. You're grateful for your mom buying you ice cream. We have ice cream here at school every Wednesday, but guess what? Your parents don't have to buy you ice cream or don't have to allow you to have ice cream. They would want to send a different snack for you, maybe a snack that's cheaper because our ice cream costs $1, or maybe they don't want you to have ice cream. They want you to have something healthy. So yeah, being grateful that they'll buy you the ice cream. That's right. So now let's look at the picture that shows the word grateful. The woman in the picture is happy. She is grateful to her friends for giving her a cake for her birthday. I also want to talk about the word marvel. When you marvel at something, you admire it with surprise and amazement. Example, I always marvel at the paintings at the museum. So why do you marvel, or what do you marvel at school? Is there anything you see that you marvel at here at school, Jenna? Okay, so stuff that you make, and it might be stuff that other classes make. Because a lot of times, guess what? When we're walking down the hall, you guys won't be paying attention and looking forward because you're marveling at the artwork that other classes have done in the hall and have posted outside. So good idea. Now let's look at the picture that shows the word marvel. The boy is marveling at or looking with wonder at the paintings in the museum. He thinks the painting is really great. And the last word is ragged. Something that is ragged is torn or worn out. Example, my mother thinks my sneakers look too worn out and ragged. How do you think a shoemaker could fix a pair of ragged shoes? Elijah? By sewing it back together. Now let's look at the picture of a worn out, ragged pair of sneakers. How can you tell these shoes are ragged? Makes them look ragged, Zoe. Yeah, you see tears. They kind of look dirty. So yes, we would call those ragged. All right, so today we're going to read our story on cards. And the story that we're reading today is a tale. Remember, a tale is like a fable, and it's trying to teach us a lesson. Okay, so do you think a tale is real or make-believe? Yes, a tale is make-believe, so it's just for fun. But as you listen to our story that's called The Elves and the Shoemaker, I want you to think about what the lesson of this story is. All right, so our story is called The Elves and the Shoemakers. I have to be able to see the words down here, so I can't hold it like this because then I can't read it. So I will hold it down here close to my eyes, and then I will hold it up for all of you to see. So get on your bottoms, use your imagination while you can't see the pictures too good. The Elves and the Shoemakers. And so what are we trying to figure out today? Yes, what lesson this story is trying to teach us. So be thinking about that. Once upon a time, there lived two shoemakers, a man and his wife. They worked in a small shoe shop where they made and repaired shoes. Like others in the neighborhood, the shoemakers were honest and hardworking, but poor. One fall day, the shoemakers had only a few bits and pieces of shoe leather left and no money to buy other supplies. I still have hammers and nails, but there is hardly enough leather to make another pair of shoes, said the shoemaker sadly. And there is no food left for dinner, added his wife. That evening, the shoemakers left the scraps of leather on the work table and went to bed hungry. They would decide what to do tomorrow. The next morning, the shoemakers went into their shop. Goodness gracious, they both exclaimed. They could not believe their eyes, for there next to the needles and thread sat a perfect pair of shoes made from the scraps of leather. What beautiful shoes! Such excellent work, said the shoemaker. Who could have done this job for us? His wife took the shoes outside the shop to marvel at them in the daylight. Just then one of the king's men walked by. What beautiful shoes, such excellent work, said the king's man. I must buy them. And he gave the shoemakers a gold coin. With the money, the happy shoemakers were able to invite their hungry neighbors to a celebration. Off they went to the market to buy food, and with the money they had left, they bought enough leather for 2 pairs of shoes. That night, the neighbors came over for a simple but delicious meal. Later, the shoemakers cut out more leather with large scissors. They left it on the workbench to work on the next day. Then they went to bed. While the shoemaker slept, 2 tiny elves scurried in. They busily snipped and stitched with strong needles and thick thread. Then they shined their 2 perfect pairs of shoes with a rag. They left the shoes on the workbench, and in a flash they were gone. The next morning the shoemakers went to their work table. Goodness, they cried. There on the workbench sat 2 beautiful pairs of shoes. The shoemakers put the shoes in the shop window. Just then, 2 of the queen's ladies in waiting walked by. What beautiful shoes! In our opinion, this is the most excellent work we have ever seen. Such precise stitching, they said. The queen's ladies gave the shoemakers 3 gold coins. The grateful shoemakers took the money and bought even more leather. Who is making such beautiful shoes for us? The shoemaker wondered as he cut up the leather. We must find out who is helping us tonight? Let's stay up and watch, said his wife. That night they did not go to sleep. They hid behind the door of their workshop and waited quietly. Get your arms out of your sleeves and stop making noise while I'm reading. The shoemaker stayed awake watching the shop. At the stroke of midnight, two elves in old worn clothing suddenly appeared. The elves hurried to the workbench, grabbed the pieces of shoe leather, and in no time at all made four beautiful pairs of shoes. The shoemakers were amazed. Did you notice the holes in their ragged clothes? Said the wife. They have done so much for us. Perhaps we can do something for them. The next day, while the husband sold the four new pairs of shoes, his wife made new clothes for the elves. That night, instead of more leather, the shoemakers left the clothes and a note on the work table. The note said, "Dear elves, thank you for helping us." They signed it, the shoemakers. At the stroke of midnight, the two raggedy elves appeared. They read the note and joyfully put on their new clothes. They danced, sang, and laughed with glee, and then they skipped out the door. The elves never came back, but the grateful shoemakers had enough money to continue making shoes and to live a happy life. So, what do you think the lesson was in this story? What do you think, Elisha? Do you have an idea? To help others when they need help. So, who helped first? The elves. They were helping the shoemakers, right? Because they had talent and they made wonderful shoes. And then who helped? The shoemakers helped the elves, so they returned the favor. So would you kind of say they worked together? Yeah. So the elves made the shoes for the shoemaker, and then in return, the shoemaker made the elves some new clothes. And so our essential question was, about working together. So in this story, it showed our essential question. All right, so I'm going to end reading.